Welcome to The Force Always. My name is Diz, aka David Zammit, and let's get on with the news, views, reviews, interviews, all in one sort of show. So, the first piece of news, which is not Star Wars related, but it would be something I would do. The Naked Gun, the rebooted, re-released thing with Liam Neeson, is now released in Australia. It was released in America about 3 weeks ago. If there's a pet hate that I absolutely hate, is when release dates are so wide apart from each other that it becomes so unexciting. I do not know the logic besides maybe, school holidays or sort of because of weathering in a particular nation, cold, hot, things like that. But you're going to get no review from me when it's that far apart. It's old news, even though it's new news. So unfortunately, it's going to be a nothing out of 10 for me with The Naked Gun because I'm just not going to see this far out of a release date that, America has had. It's just ridiculous. Call it petty on my behalf, but realistically, it's just like it was 3 weeks ago. Okay, let's next. Anyway, so to the cinema, heads, the CEOs, the executives who have an understanding of why they do this, this is just not good. So there's going to be no review from me with the actual Naked Gun. But anyway, I wish it the best. And just a fun fact, Liam Neeson was Qui-Gon Jinn in The Phantom Menace. He was the master of Obi-Wan Kenobi. There's a Star Wars link there. But anyway, so let's get into more news. Movie update for Rey Skywalker, as we know. Now, that can be controversial for me saying that because of being Rey Skywalker. Now, apparently reports have the Rey movie removed from the 2026 movie slate for Disney. So what this means, it doesn't mean it's cancelled. It doesn't mean it's not cancelled. It means it's been removed. For what reason? We don't know. That's some news. The Rey movie, which is played by Daisy Ridley, who is pretty much the front and center of episode 7, 8, 9, which was started with The Force Awakens, then it went to The Last Jedi, then The Rise of Skywalker. That's some more news. And pretty much that is the Star Wars news for this time around. So let's get right into views. And the views is actually connected to my news because views is about my story ideas that I would like to see fruition within Star Wars. The big debate about, episode 10, should it or should it not include Rey or Rey Skywalker or Rey Palpatine, which is the character in the 7, 8, 9, as I just mentioned. Because of the extreme backlash, especially from The Last Jedi and then continuing into The Rise of Skywalker, which is episode 8 and episode 9, the extreme backlash with its hardcore fans and obviously some commercial moviegoers, that at the moment, and I say at the moment, it doesn't make sense to make episode 10 because episode 10 is just marred with just a really bad, publicity for where it's coming out of, which is episode 8 and episode 9, even though that was a while ago. But it's still on everyone tips of their tongue if you're a Star Wars fan. What I think episode 10 does need to include Rey. Whether that's a mysterious form or whether that's an upfront and center thing or mediocre sort of amount of role play in the actual film of episode 10, whatever that is, it needs to include it. It just can't be dismissed, forgotten. It would just be too jarring for it not to happen. In my humble opinion, I am one of the rare Star Wars fans. I'm from the old original days. Like, I'm from the originals. The Star Wars originals. You think, oh, well, it's the originals and that's it. I was there when the prequels, that's episodes 1, 2, and 3, were getting the backlash. And now, here, when 8 and 9, episodes 8 and 9 is getting the backlash more. But more known as the Disney Star Wars. I think it's, I think Star Wars in every episode has a good thing to say and a bad thing to say. All of it. I think the decision of how episode 9, which is Rise of Skywalker, went, with Palpatine being reintroduced, or the Emperor, and then Rey naming herself almost Rey Skywalker, was a huge backlash. In my opinion, I'm not so bad with this. I just thought it was a good movie. I know that's going to cause, some crazy thoughts online, but I thought I would have created a different type of trilogy, with different sort of sets of circumstances and blah, blah, blah. But I thought Emperor Palpatine, the sense of it, for you to understand, is that it was so unknown and it was so powerful that why is Rey so strong? There's got to be a reason. So to really suddenly bring the Emperor into Rise of Skywalker makes sense. But at the same time, we all know that it was a last minute decision. It was sort of like, they try to play catch up, which I understand. You do need some sort of lead up in episode 8 for something, oh, wait a minute, there's something happening here from the Emperor. He could be still alive. Even the fact that how he's still alive is a bit, jarring in itself. But I think, I think the sense of the Emperor automatically coming from nowhere really does paint a picture of clouding people's thoughts. That was one big thing, especially in the prequels from 1 to 3, episodes 1 to 3, that was clouding the Jedi in their thoughts, and the Sith was around, and then they revealed themselves, and I thought that was good. So I thought by episode 9, episode 8, I think it was, especially episode 9, it makes sense. I think it makes sense. But going to Rey Skywalker, naming herself Rey, then Rey Skywalker, I think it's a psychology that was actually, sort of dealing with a situation and siding with the good side. I thought it was actually a very touching, good moment. But people can't stand it. I get it. Everyone has their opinions, but I think it was actually good. I think my story idea is you do need to include in episode 10 Rey Skywalker, or Rey. I personally would make it a very mysterious form, very limited, working up to something. Not make it too obvious, but and I would also have it in sort of, art imitates life and life imitates art. I would have Rey seriously tormented and bullied for being a Palpatine and then becoming a Skywalker. This type of story would make sense to the fans of, like, what the hell, who does she think she is, calling herself Rey Skywalker, but also sort of show the down effects of the backlash that the actress and the creators got, but involving it in a Star Wars story. I think that would be great. You definitely have to work it in slowly, because I think, if any sighting of Rey happens in a trailer or a teaser for episode 10, I think fans would lose it, and the same cycled, hatred happen again. I think it would be a great idea. That's my story idea is Rey Skywalker coming in a mysterious form in the beginning in episode 10, but absolutely having the torment of the galaxy of being, the granddaughter of the biggest, killer, devil, which was the Emperor ever, and having to live with that. I think that would be a very intriguing and dark story. But that's my opinion. That's my views for this time around. Now, let's get into reviews. Reviews is a little bit different. I'm just going to sip a bit of coffee. Now, the reviews this time around is of a particular figure I've got that I will never part from if it was even 4 figures. Like I can't see myself parting from this one. I got it, actually, it's an exclusive figure from Star Wars Celebration in Chicago. It's of Darth Maul, an exclusive. It's a reissued exclusive. It's got bigger size, metallic sort of packaging. But I actually got Ray Park, who played Darth Maul, to sign it. Here it is right here. Look at this. Look at that. And it's authenticated by Topps. It's signed, as you can see, sort of in that area there, by Ray Park. This is an exclusive. Look at that. Beautiful. This here, I'm telling you, no less than 4 figures. I would ask, and that's 4 figures Australian as well. That there, look, and even on the back you've got the, look at that, beautiful. It's just a classic. That there is a 10 out of 10. The fact that I got to speak and to meet Ray Park was great. I even got a photo with him in a photo op. But that's a 10 out of 10. That's my review for this time around. That there signed exclusive figure that you rarely can get. But anyway, so. And I think Michael and Werribee South would probably appreciate that thing, even though he's not a Star Wars fan, because Darth Maul was just loved by everyone. He's probably the equal or maybe the second best villain ever in any fantasy type movie, according to a lot of people, or according to part of the people. Interviews. Yes, myself, I'm going to interview myself with the question of, this is a question that I've actually continued to answer, but I'll ask again. When will we get any information about the possibility of Episode 10, Star Wars Episode 10? Well, I think, in my opinion, it has already been said. They're just waiting and timing for it to sort of announce it to be Episode 10. I think Star Wars Starfighter is Episode 10. I'll tell you why. I've said for a very long time that 2027 would be a missed opportunity if they didn't release Episode 10 in the 50th year. This would be amazing. I think they're just writing this story, calling it Star Wars Starfighter, and I reckon Star Wars Celebration, that's in California, and which is about a month or 2 before the actual movie comes out, which is perfect timing. I think that's when they'll announce it to be Episode 10, because it will be so close to the point of the movie that even if there's backlash about it being Episode 10, there will be not much for the fans to sort of create a huge backlash. I mean, it may happen in a wave, but not enough for it to be, effective in a bad way. I think that's going to be Episode 10, Starfighter. If it is not Starfighter, they need to make episode 10 be released in 2027. I think it could be a bit too late to create, or unless they have created something they've not said to anyone. But episode 10 should come out in 2027, just because it's the 50th year. Not because it's just the 50th year, but it would be sort of time for episode 10 to come out in today's now standards of Star Wars releases. You know, back in the 80s and back in the 90s, Star Wars releases weren't even thought of it's going to happen again. But now we're in the 2000s, and it's more the, you know, mid 2000 teens, like 2015. It's become a sort of a thing to know, well, when is the next Star Wars coming out? And I think, personally, I think Star Wars Starfighter will be episode 10 secretly, and that's what I think. So that's my interview. I basically, the question is, when should episode 10 come out? It should come out in 2027, 50th year of Star Wars anniversary. That's what I think. Anyway, my friends, that is the news, views, reviews, interviews from The Force Always this time around. And until next time, my friends, keep rocking!